Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah, Alameen. Aqibatun lil Mustaqim. Wala Budwana ila ala Dalimeen. والصلاة والسلام على رسولنا محمد وعليه وصحبه وأجمعين. اللهم ربنا يا ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت سميع عليم. Allahumma ameen. My brothers and sisters, I will continue my series today on the tafsir of this beautiful surah, Surah Fetch, Surah 48. And let me give you my felicitations. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh lil ikhwani wa bati fi din wa salamu ala mani tabahuda lil ikhwani wa bati fi Africa, Europa, America, Caribbean, South America, kulli makan. Amalat. Brothers and sisters, we will get on the 8th, 9th, and 10th verses of this beautiful surah. And we have a common theme when we see how Subhanahu wa Ta'ala in His wisdom, as we begin to delve into this beautiful surah, how at the beginning, Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has assured us the manifest victory. He talked about the manifest victory that He gave to the Muslims. Then He gave a special privilege to our Prophet ﷺ by saying that He will forgive all his sins. Then we got into the areas of our forgiveness and if we do certain things, do good things within the earth. And then we got into the enemies of Islam and what Subhanahu wa Ta'ala has in store for them. Now we get into other things here where we're talking about verse 8, where Subhanahu wa Ta'ala in His wisdom is giving us something for every age. He's telling us here that He has given us a messenger, a warner, which He was and He still is today. And verse 8, again, we have truly sent thee a witness, a bringer of glad tidings and a warner. This is our Prophet ﷺ. And so Subhanahu wa Ta'ala here is talking about our Prophet ﷺ, and that He sent him not just for us today, He sent for all mankind, hypocrites, believers, non-believers, atheists, agnostics, for all human beings. All human beings can learn from Him, can be guided by Him, and to be better human beings. That was His mission. That's why He's the last and final messenger. And the verse 8 is a special acknowledgement as well to confirm again the presence and the overwhelming support from Subhanahu wa Ta'ala that He gave to our Prophet ﷺ, that He gave him not just a segment of area there, as we know today as the Middle East, which I prefer to call it Jazira Arab. He didn't just label it there. He was given the mission of all mankind. And as we see, this warner has produced billions of followers, as we know today. And it is spreading so fast that the experts are predicting, especially Western Europe, it would be under the Islamic banner by between 2030 to 2040, around in there. They say the United States will be predominantly Muslim between 2040 to 2060. This is incredible. and we look at Europe today, we don't know what's going on. And we look at Russia, which is very interesting. You see with the war in Russia and Ukraine. I'm not going to get into that. I don't need to get into that. And I won't get into that. But here what we're talking about is what's going on. Russia fields the biggest population of Muslims today. And Muslims are flocking there as well. So the environment that has been produced in Russia has been conducive for the spread of Islam. So you look at this, and then you see Russia is surrounded by the Chechens, which they've always had conflicts with, and the Dagestan, excuse me. And there's a staunch Muslims. So we see already, if we had a map, we see how the spread is going in Europe. So we have a messenger. This messenger, his 1400 years later, it is spreading, and the message is spreading loud and clear. And people are coming to Islam in droves. And again, it's not by, as the disbelievers want us to they want to portray, especially on their TV like CNN and MSNBC, is that it's been done by some force. Well, I have to beg to differ with them on this. My brothers and sisters, those who are converting to Islam in South America, did you ever hear of any Muslim force come with bombs and with swords coming to some like to Argentina, or coming to Bolivia, or going into Nicaragua and then forcing the people to come to Islam? It's not happening because of the word of Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, because of his book and his sunnah and the sunnah of our Prophet Islam. People are coming to Islam without a shot. Not one bomb is being dropped forcing anybody to come to Islam. And we see already the remnants of this is even Putin himself. He looks at Islam not as many of the Western presidents look at it, which is very, very interesting. He has a profound respect for Islam. That's why he's allowing it to propagate in his country. This is very interesting if you think about this. And on a side note, my brothers and sisters, when you look at Russia as well, do you know this man, President Putin, he's given almost instant citizenship to many African Americans. I don't know if you guys know about that. I saw this on YouTube. And matter of fact, some prominent African Americans who went there to get away from the killings and so forth, the racism in Russia, he met them at the airport and gave them their passport and their naturalization papers. This is very interesting. Very, very interesting. Now, you tell me what Western country is doing that. I don't know of any. But in Russia, they're conducive to this. And he's went on public and he went on international news agencies and said, we don't do this, making mentioning what's happening in the United States. He said, we don't do that. We don't stop black people and then kill them outright. He made it straight out clear. See, so what I'm trying to get at, brothers and sisters, is even the most hardened people that we see on one hand, but yet still his heart has been softened because he's allowing the Muslim population to grow tremendously in Russia. The biggest Muslim population in Europe today is not Britain, it's not Ireland, it's not France, it's not Germany, but Russia. That's very interesting. That's just a side note, my brothers and sisters, for you to think about how Subhanahu wa Ta'ala works. And again, you look at this man, Putin, president, you see he's a hardened man, but yet and still his heart is softened for the Muslims. He's allowed this religion to flourish big time under his reign. That's very interesting. So we look at number 8, and number 8 has a lot of significance to it because we have Subhanahu wa Ta'ala said, I've sent a witness, I bear good tidings and warner. And you see this witness, you see this bearer of good tidings and warner, because it's affecting people from all backgrounds. This is the beauty of our religion. And even though we have a lot of problems in the Ummah, it is growing so fast. It's like a community. You know, like you start a new community and it built so fast, it can't catch up with itself yet. It hasn't got its foot anchored. The community hasn't got its foot anchored yet because it's growing so fast. This is how the Muslim community worldwide is growing. It's growing so fast. We have so many people coming to it. We're having a hard time corralling everybody in, because just as we build a new fence around the new Muslims, here's more Muslims who are joining. Now we have to build other fences. You see what I mean? And the analogy is that it's just growing so fast. And so this is a tribute to Subhanahu wa ta'ala and his sunnah, and also to the sunnah of our Prophet, ﷺ, and that the people follow, even though they never saw him. They never saw our Prophet, ﷺ. This is a beautiful thing, brothers and sisters, that we see that's transforming today. That's why the Muslims, you must be strong. You don't take back seat to nobody, and you protect your religion, and you should be proud of it. And you learn its history, and you look at what is happening in the world today. Yes, there's problems in the Muslim community. We're not saying it's not, but it's still spreading with all of the ineptness and all of the silliness and stuff that's going on, especially in a lot of Muslim states. It's still reaching the hearts of those others, and that is a beautiful thing. So this is a good message here from Subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he's confirming he sent the Prophet, ﷺ. He sent him for this mission for all mankind, not for just a general population near Jazir Arab, no, to the whole world. And we see this today. And so we look at this now and we say, well, okay, this warner came in the name of Muhammad Abdullah. Okay, Abdullah, and he is what the final messenger, and his message, his risalatuhu, his in Arabic, is that they may believe in Allah and his messenger and honor him and glorify him morning and evening. Now, brothers and sisters, here is something that many Muslims have a problem they don't quite understand. They think in a situation where we have a verse like this, which is number 9. We have a verse like this. People trying to maybe confused. They say, so wait a minute. I thought that when we make salat to Subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now it's like it's saying that we make a salat to our Prophet. No, it's not the case. Here we're talking about, if you look at the tafsir and you understand it well, here you're talking about a message that was sent to our Prophet, okay, that to believe in Subhanahu wa ta'ala and Subhanahu wa ta'ala only, and to be guided by his book and by his sunnah and his sharia. This is what his mission was. And to glorify him, meaning you making the dhikr in Arabic, but the remembrance of Allah continuously, morning and night. But also every scholar of every era has said and made it clear too, that you also should make dhikr, meaning you praying for our Prophet, even he said so himself in a authentic hadith. So you should be making special dhikr for our Prophet, for his well-being and so forth and so on. This is sunnah as well, especially Thursday night after Salat Maghrib. You should start making more dhikr upon our Prophet, and those are a lot of verses. There's things that we say, but I'm not going to get into that today because here we talk tafsir. But you can say Thursday night after Maghrib, you should start making your dhikr upon our Prophet and Subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. So let's get that out and let's get that understood. And I'm going to concentrate basically because the first two, the 8 and 9, are more self-explanatory. They're not very difficult to understand. The 9th verse presents a whole plethora of different ideas and concepts that we have to understand. And we have wording in it too that has to be explained, because there's some things in it that the Muslims must understand. And so this is why I'm concentrating basically on number 9, because number 9 is very, very important. In that, excuse me, not number 9, number 10. Number 10. I'm sorry, brothers and sisters, number 10. And Subhanahu wa ta'ala says in number 10 here, he says, verily those who plight their fealty to thee do not less than plight their fealty to Allah. The hand of Allah is over their hands. And then anyone who violates his oath does so to the harm of his own soul. And anyone who fulfills what he has covenanted with Allah, Allah will soon grant him a great reward. Brothers and sisters, here we have a multitude of things that we should discuss. Because in this situation, and this is the last part of the verse 10. And we know that the three verses are intertwined and are joined in belief in Allah and his messenger. The binding pledge given to Allah and our Prophet, alayhi والسلام, and fulfilling that pledge without deviation. Notice there, the pledge without deviation. We have this problem in the community today. We are not fulfilling our obligations, and our pledging that we have pledged and swore to, it's gone by the wayside. Far too many Muslims. And the minute you start to, break the pledge, let's look at the pledges. Let's look at it. When you pledge the Sunnah, like the Salat, how many has stopped praying? They don't pray, or they pray at different times, sometimes maybe once a week, sometimes 3 times per week. Some pray only on Friday, some pray in Juma period, only. And some come to the celebration and that's it. We have many who don't even read the Quran at all, except in Ramadan, because they were told that it was okay for them to read it only at this time. They've been told to remove Islamic clothing and remove your Islamic identity and look like the disbelievers. And this is spread even in the Muslim states. You look at many leaders today, you don't know if they're Muslims or not. They look like anybody else. And so these type of things, and this is why we're being punished, because we have went away from this message. And you see, this is why we're being punished big time in Muslim states in particular, being punished big time, because we went away from this pledge. And so we'll get into this pledge here, and let's talk about that. Because you have something here that each one should understand. Because the Muslim is about his pledges and his promises. We're not like everybody else. We're supposed to uphold our oaths and promises to subhanahu wa ta'ala, to our Prophet, والسلام, to one another. Remember, Muslim aku Muslim. A brother is a brother to every Muslim. And we must keep these things. We must keep that honor. And it's hard because you see what has happened today. Those who are taking the religion fundamentally are being fought. We know that. They're called terrorists. They're called criminals. They're called malfeasance. Their thinking is malfeasance. I mean, there's all kind of things. But those who smoke and drink and pray sometimes, those who go out to do other things against the Sunnah and against the Sharia, the same enemy doesn't talk against them. They praise them. Those who go out to drink and do certain and take drugs, but they still go to make prayer now and then, they praise them. But those who take the religion fundamentally is who they go after. Why? Because they want to bring the Muslims away from that fundamental belief of subhanahu wa ta'ala and our Prophet ﷺ. They want us to take you from that. They want to take us from this belief. This is why they do it. That's why they spend. And subhanahu wa ta'ala said they will spend their last dollar trying to defeat you and me and defeat his way by roadblocks, by putting people on watch lists, by doing all kind of things to stop the people from this pledge that we made with subhanahu wa ta'ala. So they have engineered many devious and devilish plans to do this devilish work against subhanahu wa ta'ala. But he said he will not let them to defeat Islam. And we see that because as we speak now, there's the conversion rates. I think in the United States, I can't remember now. I saw this one time by, I think it's Pew, who gives the those polls or something like that. It was 2,000 per day, or I can't remember now, but I saw a couple of years ago. But is even in the United States, the amount of conversions is staggering, more faster than it is in Christianity. Christianity is going by the wayside. Matter of fact, I read the study where the churches are falling by the wayside in the United States, and the Muslims are coming behind them to take the churches to build mosques behind that, okay, to take over and make it into a mosque. So things are starting to happen even in the United States. Africa, which is now what I understood is 60% Muslim now. So it's becoming a Islamic continent, and it's growing, I mean, faster than what we can, faster we can, like this is growing. People just coming to Islam all over the place. Here we have something in Arabic here, yubayuna. This is a very interesting pledge, and this pledge is a covenant, not a covenant, it's a very devout pledge. And this goes towards what? Our prophet, and was to subhanahu wa ta'ala and to our prophet. And there was, I wish I can get to this because but I may go back to the history of what happened in the early part of Islam, how it spread and went to Medina. There were some significant events, and I've talked about this on other shows too, significant events that transpired before the Prophet ﷺ actually began to take foot into the Medina. The imams, the rulers, okay, of the Medina, or the elders of the Medina got together. And then they finally brought the people together to discuss what's about to transpire. And they gave them the choice, not by sword, they gave them the choice. And in this, they told that when they come and give this pledge to the prophet, they've decided now that all of Jazir Arab is kafir. Okay, this is what was said, that they have to acknowledge that they were disbelievers. And that those who believed among them are ikwanuhum, that's your brother. So the pledge, they were already developing to show that even though you have bloodlines, you have cousins in Syria or in Iraq or in Jordan, but if they did not believe, they were deemed disbelievers. But those who are not in your bloodline, who believe, are your brothers. Essentially what was said. And there's a whole thing they said in Arabic. It is beautiful, the wording that they have in it, but I can't get into that today because we're supposed to talk about the tafsir. But here's some of the words that is used, and these words were used in here in the verse, and the significance for you to understand that. The Bayuna is a special pledge. It's a deep, devout pledge, and it's a more striking covenant that you must have. And then you have Yuthayiruna, you obey. Now you've given this pledge to subhanahu wa ta'ala. You've given this pledge to our Prophet ﷺ. Now you must obey what has been directed of you. Then the akda, okay, this is the covenant and fulfilling of the pledge and obedience. Now you see why when you go through some of the tafsirs, you look at this, you say, okay, I read that and that's it. It's deeper than that, brothers and sisters, because there's wording in Arabic that you should understand. And also, I didn't put in there's a fourth one, which is related to the Yubainuna, the first one here with the Pledge of Allegiance. The Bay'ah. Bay'ah is part of the noun, or I'm never good at which one is objective, but it's part of the Bay'una. The Bay'ah is a special Bay'ah or pledge that was given to our Prophet ﷺ, and is used in that. Or you say you give the Bay'ah to the new ruler and stuff like that. You don't say Yubayuna, no, because that is a special pledge that was at that time, and it was a special covenant that will build the future community. Now we give Bay'ah. We give Bay'ah to rulers, okay, to our rulers. And speaking of that, I want to make sure we understand that, brothers and sisters. The bay'ah is never given to a disbeliever. Never. It's given to a disbeliever. Never. I don't care what president it is. If he's not Muslim, you cannot give him bay'ah. You cannot. Bay'ah is only restricted for the Muslims and the imam of the country. This is the bay'ah is, and then there's certain circumstances if there's wartime. But again, then you give bay'ah to the imam or the master or something like this. But these are special circumstances. But in general rule, the bay'ah is given to the ruler and to a Muslim ruler who has control of the land. Just because he's a Muslim, you can see like Ethiopia, the president of Ethiopia, he's a Muslim, but he's not governing under the Sharia. Okay, so you can't give him bay'ah because this country is not considered quote unquote a Muslim country. Nigeria, the president of Nigeria is a Muslim, but he's not ruling under the Islamic principles. See, so you don't give him bay'ah either, but you give bay'ah to the full-fledged presidents, imams of countries like Morocco, Saudi Arabia, stuff like this. You understand? There's Mauritius. You have Brunei. These are sultans who govern under the Sharia and so forth and so on. Many of the other, we have rules, even some of the other ones like Algeria, Libya, and Tunis, and so forth, Egypt. I won't get deep into that. Yes, it's a Muslim country, but you know what has transpired there, and many scholars are up in arms about their governance. And so, since there's a dispute, you back away from this type of thing. You don't give bay'ah to them because there's disputes and disagreements among our leaders today. So these pledges here, you have to understand it. You see that the Brayuna, this is what was given on our prophet when we had when the prophet والسلام, now they start to the last war they had with the Quraysh and whatnot, and so they were making the trek to go to make Umrah, but they were stopped. And I gave you the story what happened. He sent Bilal, who confronted Khalid, Saif Allah, who was at the time he was a disbeliever at that time. He was not Saif Allah. We've known him as later when he came as a Muslim, and he greeted him and so forth. After the discussion had transpired, they stopped the Muslims, and the Muslims then ordered to go under a tree. And you read this in Surah Toba, Surah 9, where he ordered you to go under a tree and you give your bay'ah, giving your pledge, and so forth and so on. And he brought, and subhanahu wa ta'ala says in verse, he brought sakina to the Muslims. Here we go again with that word, sakina. Remember we talked about that word. Here it is in this particular surah again. So again, we have these differences in the Arabic and what they actually mean and how they differ, even though they have similar meanings, but there are differences in degree. And again, like the ahdi, where it's the covenant and the filling the pledge in obedience. This is a must, because where we at today is there. We have a covenant and we must fulfill that pledge and obedience. We're not doing it, brothers and sisters. As a general rule, we are not doing that. And this is why we're suffering in the Ummah today, because we are not fulfilling that the covenant. We're walking away from it. And we're doing all kind of crazy things to gain the ire of subhanahu wa ta'ala. So then we have here, we have the directing the believers to the duty of their Lord after conveying his message. The message of our prophet ﷺ was one of Tawheed. You remember that. It was still Tawheed. And in guiding, believing in subhanahu wa ta'ala, believing in our prophet ﷺ as the best way to get you into what our ultimate goal is, to go to where? To Jannah. This is what our ultimate goal. Our ultimate goal is not to have a good life basically inside dunya. Yes, we pray for that. It's only natural, but that's not the guide, because you see, it's very difficult in the world today to have quote unquote a good life. It's just too much stuff going around you. I don't care where you at. There's crime is skyrocketing. There's debauchery all over the place. There's mayhem. In the United States, there's killings after killings after mass killings and so forth. And at any given day, any given place, there could be a mass shooting. And so people live under, under an umbrella of fear. So it's very difficult, but we must maintain this. And the believers are the duty of their Lord after conveying. They're directing their duty of their Lord, and after conveying his message. Our prophet, we know his message. We know his message of Tawheed, and we must direct our duty towards that end, that message. It's a fundamental message, but it's been made hard because there's so many enemies inside the Ummah and outside the Ummah who's feeding you, as you heard me talk about. We got those in there who will try to take you from that and bring you up into the stars, bring you up into the seven heavens and start talking to you, get you to thinking about stuff you have no knowledge of, thinking about the atmosphere up in the sky, and about if Subhanahu wa ta'ala is over here in this place, and all this. This is what I'm talking about. Getting you away from the fundamental beliefs of Subhanahu wa ta'ala and our Prophet ﷺ. And so we have that. This problem is very deep, and we have to be made aware of that. And brothers and sisters, you always hear me say, now, we should return back to the fundamentals, okay, of our Prophet ﷺ. He brought a simple message. A simple message. It was not complex. And so did his companions and the three favorite generations. They brought a simple message, and they gave you a guide how to follow. We went away from that, didn't we? And now it's so hard. Just that simple message is hard to follow because there's so much glitz and misinformation and disinformation being passed around. So now it's the confusion. But here I'm giving you stuff that's basic to return to it, because this is what our Prophet ﷺ said. And you see what Subhanahu wa ta'ala said. It's not hard. You do this, you do this, you do this, you're on your way. You make your covenant and you follow that covenant. Even in adversity, you still try to follow it. So this is an important message, my brothers and sisters, that we have to be, it's so much smoke, essentially, like we're talking the hood. You can't see anything. You have to wait for the smoke to clear. This is what is happening in the Ummah today. It's so much smoke. You don't know which way to turn to get clearance, to clear your mind. You got smoke over to the left. You got smoke over to the right. You got smoke behind you. You got smoke in front of you. If you walk, you don't know, you can't see where you're going. This is what's happening in the Ummah today. It is so much smoke, but there is a clearing. And once you see that clearing and you ask Subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you that clearing, then you go back to the fundamentals of Islam and you're on your way. Now, we're not talking about, I know someone goes, now he's talking about terrorism. I've never said that. And whoever says those type of things are coining the terms of the disbelievers because they don't want to see this. They don't want nobody discussing the fundamentals about the Quran. They don't like that. If you want to read it out loud and have go to have Quran awards, see who's Hafiz, they don't care. They don't fight that. But they fight this because they don't want you to know what the Quran, the meaning of it. They don't want that. See? So look at it for what it is. And when you start to understand and start to listen to the Quran and begin to have the tafsir and give it to you, you say, it's not hard. It's right. Then you begin to go back to the fundamentals of Islam. That's why they don't like programs like this, because they don't want this. They want the modern Muslim to get up there and you look at him, you see he's Muslim, but you see that he drinks, he got girlfriends, or they're doing this. They don't mind that. They support that. But people like me, no, they don't like that. So now here we have, when they pledge allegiance to the Prophet and contracted with him, they're pleasing Allah. If you look at the verse, the number 10, it's very pointed. The allegiance that you have with the Prophet ﷺ is allegiance to Allah, vice versa. The pledge that you give to Allah is a pledge that you give to our Prophet ﷺ. Now, again, I'm bringing up another fact. We have people in our community who say they're Muslim. They call it Qur'aniyun. I don't know if you've heard of them. Be wary of them. They're making headway, especially among black folk in the United States. They're starting to make headway. They tell you that you should follow only the Quran because the Sunnah is unreliable. They'll tell you this. And we have black folk in the United States taking this nonsense. It's kufr. It's disbelief. You're out of Islam for doing this and taking it and believing in that. So they say you take the Quran and you believe that. But wait a minute. If the prophet is not to be believed, then look at what we have here. And you see what subhanahu wa ta'ala says here in verse 10. He made it clear about his hand over the hand of those who made their covenant with Allah and so forth and so on. So you have a covenant with Allah, and that covenant also is with the Prophet alayhi salam. So, and then you look here in number 8, the Qur'aniyun says, don't follow the Prophet because he's a man, he's a human being, he's fallible, he's going to make mistakes. You don't follow what he says. Wait a minute. The Qur'aniyun say this, but number 8, subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we have truly sent a witness, a bringer of glad tidings and a warner. Who is he talking about? Is he talking about Trump? Huh? Was he talking about some of these other? No, he was talking about our prophet. You see what I mean? The Qur'aniyun are making headway even in Africa now too. And people don't read the Quran. If they read it, they would ask these idiots questions. I've had battles with them on Facebook many times, and I literally destroyed them because I give them verses like this. So, wait a minute. You said we're not supposed to follow the prophet. I said, how are we supposed to learn how to pray? In the book, it tells us to pray. It doesn't tell how many times. We had to learn it from the prophet. There's a lot of things. You see what I mean, brothers and sisters? But I'm giving you that because, as a side note, because we have problems in this area, because these deviant groups are making headway, especially among the African Americans. They're making headway big time, and they're starting to gulp it up, and they don't read. They let someone else interpret the Quran for them. It has no business doing that, and they skip over things like this. So we look at this, and number 9, you see, in order the man may believe in Allah and his messenger. Whoa! The Quran says, don't believe in the Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam. But here, subhanahu wa ta'ala says, may believe in Allah and his messenger, okay? And assist and honor him, okay? So our prophet was given a message. Again, my brothers and sisters, the Trump are distractors and those who say they're Muslims when in fact they're not, who say don't follow the Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam. So here, again, we have this pledge, and this pledge that you give to our Prophet ﷺ is pleasing to subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's pledging Allah as well. You don't make the distinction between them and say, well, you know, I can pledge to Allah, but there's some things I don't like over here about the Prophet. I've heard this and so forth and so on. I don't want to hear that, brothers and sisters. You ignore that. That is hogwash. You cannot believe in Allah and then you don't believe in the Prophet ﷺ. Or you come back and say, I believe in the Prophet, but I don't believe too much. I still like the Trinity. I like to sign partners with Allah. No, it doesn't work like that. It's Tawheed. You believe in the Prophet, then you believe in Allah. If you say you believe in one or not the other, you're not a Muslim. Bottom line, you cannot be. So we have this situation, and again, I mentioned the fact about the bay'ah, because the bay'ah here, my brothers and sisters, is very important again in this whole scheme of things, because this bay'ah is still important today. We have our scholars discussing the bay'ah because we have Muslims living everywhere. Who do we give bay'ah to? Because you know the Prophet ﷺ has got a hadith talking about this bay'ah. He said, you must give bay'ah before you leave this earth. So who do we give bay'ah to? We don't have a khalifa anymore. There's no khalifa. We don't have a khalifa. We don't have a sultan. We don't even have one central government. So who do we give bay'ah to? These are things that are still being discussed by our fuqaha ulama, and some say these things here, some say this thing here. I won't get deep into that. But that is something for you to do your research on. But certainly you don't give no pledge to the president of the United States or the president of Canada or the president of France or Britain or Spain. You cannot. They're disbelievers. You cannot pledge anything to them. This is why joining their armies is forbidden. It is forbidden to join their armies, and so forth and so on. There's dispute about citizenships because if you're born in Spain, you're a citizen of Spain, and so you're in a situation, but you're still Muslim. But you have to be very careful. I don't want to get into the issues of fiqh about this either. But we have problems in the area of bay'ah today because we have Muslims scattered everywhere, and we don't have a one head. We don't have the imam of the ummah yet. We don't have that. He's coming. He's coming, brothers and sisters. He's coming. So that pledge is allegiance, especially to our prophet. Taking his hand, and his pledge is God's hand is above their hands. In verse 10, when the pledge comes down, and if you understand, when you make the pledge and the bay'ah, the first you go to shake hand. This is the bay'ah between the man and the leader. This is what was not done today. Interesting, isn't it? Nobody gets close to any of the rulers today. You can't get even 20 kilometers close to them. But the bay'ah, the real bay'ah, is that you give your hand. Now, the general population, because there's so many, you can't make the millions that come to go shake the hand of the ruler of the country. Cannot. So there's a tacit authority that they gave bay'ah, and it's it. But in those times, they gave bay'ah, which was the handshake, which was between the man, and then verbally with the woman. Because the Prophet, ﷺ, said a woman cannot give bay'ah to the ruler with a handshake and hand touching. Cannot do it. It's forbidden for doing that. So this is important aspect. Now, as usual, we have problems again in this area, and we talk about the cutting. Yata'a min Allah Ta'ala Nabi alayhi salatu wassalam. فعلنا وعملنا ضد سنة Allah وسنة نبينا صلوات ربي تسليمته عليه. Now, here we got something. Cutting off of the covenant with Allah, God Almighty. I hate that translation there. With Allah Ta'ala and our Prophet upon him, and peace be and blessings. Our actions and doings are against the sunnah of subhanahu wa ta'ala and the sunnah of our Prophet. Prayers and peace be upon him. Now, our covenant today, most of us don't have this covenant no more because we broke the covenant. Prayer, deviant actions, believing in things that we should not believe, going involved in innovations, joining groups that you should not, who are involved in innovations, and some of it is even disbelief. Others joining disbelievers against the Muslims. All of these type of things like this are deviations, and you're cutting your covenant with subhanahu wa ta'ala. We're not talking about a sin that's been made. That's a difference. The Khawarij would tell you otherwise. If the strong brother makes a mistake, he goes somewhere and he gets caught up in some situation where he's holding the hand of another woman that he's not married to. That covenant is broken maybe at that particular time, because remember what the Prophet said, that if you make this type of debauchery, that you're not a Muslim at the time until after, and then you make tawbah, then you restore it. But as a general rule, sin is not. But habitual sin may break your covenant. Habitual sin, like if you fornicate 3-4 times per week, you're running all over the place, that you might, because if you look at Surah 24, Noor, subhanahu wa ta'ala, is very angry about that, and he made reference to that. He said, who's making their dicker upon that? Meaning, every Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, you go see these certain girls, and you go each one, and you go to do things with them. That's now you becoming a mushrik, because you're thinking about that. You're devising plans to go see them. You're not making dhikr law. You've added another ilah to your world, and that is debauchery. See, you see what I mean? These type of things will take you out. That's over a period of time. Scholars talk about over the recidivism. You keep doing it over and over and over and over, and you don't stop it for years upon years. Now, maybe the covenant has been broken with subhanahu wa ta'ala because you have not stopped this, and you don't seem to want to stop that. So I was giving you that so you can understand that our covenant is very important, that we must have that covenant and we must keep it as pure, as simple as we can, and don't break it. It's not easy, but yet it is easy certain way. We don't smoke and drink. We don't go out on our wives, and we don't go out on our husbands. We don't, if we're not married, we don't go fornicate with women. If we're not married, we just don't do that. We don't go date. We don't go join groups that are deviant. We don't go to join Muslim criminal groups like we have today in many different parts of the world, who are killing innocent people, kidnapping. We don't join those people, because you have to ask, do they really have a covenant with our prophet and with subhanahu wa ta'ala? You got to ask questions like that. I don't want to be put in a situation where I'm in these groups and I pass something happened, I get killed in this state. I don't know what's going to happen if subhanahu wa ta'ala say, your covenant was broken with me. Your covenant was broken with our prophet when you went to go kill these people innocently. They were innocent people. You see what I mean? That's why it's tenuous around the world today, brothers and sisters. There's a lot of trappings, but there's a Sirat al-Mustaqim. There's a straight path, and we try to follow that. So you stay away from all the stuff you can and just fundamentally take the religion. That's it. And you follow what it says. If it says you pray 5 times a day, why some of us only pray 1 time, 2 times? And then we make it so difficult. We start doing this and that, adding and taking things from. You pray 5 times per day, and you do as the prophet prayed. He said this. You're okay. You stay away from all the other vices, and you're in good shape. You are keeping that covenant, and you're keeping that covenant with subhanahu wa ta'ala and your prophet relationship. This is important, brothers and sisters. The pledging again is something pleasing with Allah. This is pleasing with subhanahu wa ta'ala, as I've already said. So pledging with Allah, thus you pledge with our prophet. See, now we reversed it. If you say you pledge with subhanahu wa ta'ala, then of course you pledge with Allah. I mean with our prophet, and vice versa. This is again part of this covenant. You cannot have one without the other. You got to have both. If you have one pledge for one and not the other, like the Qur'an, they have a pledge for subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they had no pledge with our prophet, alayhi salam. It doesn't work. You're not Muslim. So then near the last of this here, he pledges allegiance to God Almighty. He pledged allegiance to our prophet. He breaks his covenant with subhanahu wa ta'ala. He will find subhanahu wa ta'ala's wrath and punishment on him. Brothers and sisters, again, if we break this covenant, we will be punished. The tafsir tells us that you will suffer punishment for this. And here subhanahu wa ta'ala says in verse 10 that you have basically wronged your soul if you break this covenant. This is why we have to maintain this covenant at the best of our ability. And we're not talking about, again, common sin. I walked down the street and I saw the man, he dropped his wallet. I should have tried to yell, hey, you dropped your wallet. And I go pick it up, and inside the wallet is $30, say, for instance. I take the $30 and, I may try to find the man, or I just leave the wallet there. That's a sinful act. Is that breaking the covenant with subhanahu wa ta'ala? No, it's a sinful act. You just repent for that. You have asked subhanahu wa ta'ala for his forgiveness for what you've done. So if I've already explained about how you break by your actions, plural, by your actions, plural. If I go out every single day to rob people, you broke your covenant. Can you see what I mean? I'm going out there to steal from the stores every day. I broke that covenant. You see what I mean? Now, we're not talking about the extreme poor who don't have nothing to eat. And we have cases in the past where the Qadi let the people go because they were in bad condition. And that's why they stole. and so forth. That's another issue under the Sharia. And so that is it in a nutshell, my brothers and sisters. The pledge is no joke. It's a serious matter, and you should make sure that you take your pledge and you honor this pledge, and don't forget about it, because we forget about this pledge. We forgot about this, and this pledging is your shahadatain is a pledge. It's a most important pledge, that shahadatain, and you must maintain that. There's 7 conditions that you must maintain of that. And I think I gave a class on that as well on time to maintain that. But that covenant is no joke. And here we looked at we talked about this, and Subhanahu wa ta'ala has made it clear about this issue. And so we look at it and we see it for what it is, brothers and sisters. Take it fundamentally. It's not hard. Keep your covenant with Subhanahu wa ta'ala. Keep your covenant with the Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam. Make your dhikr to Subhanahu wa ta'ala as much as you can. Make dhikr to for the goodness, for the well-being of our Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam, and whatnot. And you give your thanks to Subhanahu wa ta'ala for allowing you to be a Muslim. So you make this dhikr, and this would be a good way also to strengthen your covenant with him, because you're in bad shape. Most of us today are in bad shape with this covenant. Most of us don't have this covenant no more. It's finished. It's gone. And boy, that's really a shame. And I'll leave you one more thing. You know, the Prophet ﷺ said, and this is chilling, he said at approximately 70,000, I believe, will make it to Jannah in his ummah. There's billions of us. What does that tell you, brother and sister? Huh? Think about that, okay? He predicted about 70,000, and there are billions of us. That means many of us won't make it. But there's degrees of what's going to happen. Some may go into Jahannam for a while and then come out after they're purified. There's a lot of contention about that. But our Prophet ﷺ said about 70,000 will enter Jannah from his ummah. That's a low number considering the amount of in the past and how many Muslims we have today. So brothers and sisters, there's no guarantee that we're going to go there. So we must do everything we possibly can in order to keep that covenant so we can be considered for it. But the way we acting today, we don't even have a covenant with Subhanahu wa ta'ala. So how can we be among the 70,000 that the Prophet was talking about when we have no covenant? The covenant is gone with him and with Subhanahu wa ta'ala. And just to say you're Muslim doesn't mean anything. Because that goes to show you when you look at this hadith. And the scholars have deciphered this, and they talked about this, and they talk about many different degrees of this, and so forth and so on. Because some may go to Jahannam and then come out purified, and we have names for that. We don't know for sure. But one thing for sure is it's a low number. So we should be very careful and be mindful of our covenants. So my brothers and sisters, I wanted to say too, I'm giving these talks because during the day it's so hot, and so I used to give it the evening here in Morocco, but I've been doing pre-recordings because I feel it's a little better for me right now to do that. But I hope that today was a good lesson for you to get you to think about this covenant and so forth that you have with Subhanahu wa ta'ala and with our Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam and whatnot. And again, thanks Jazakallah khair to all my brothers and sisters who subscribe to me and who follow my program. I really greatly appreciate it and everything. So my brothers and sisters, I'll leave you with the beautiful words of Jannah. Assalamu alaikum. Rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.